The race in Zandvoort was so good that Viagra stocks have taken a nosedive as Formula One fans found themselves rock hard for a full 3 hours. Even the women. Welcome to Race Weekend Update. My name's Stacey Hewen, and these are the top stories from the Dutch Grand Prix. Dutch fans seemed a lot better behaved this year, but I don't give them any credit for that because it's really easy to be well behaved when you know you're going to get exactly what you want. Max once again took the victory, but in that final race restart, it was looking like Alonso had a chance to win. He didn't, but at least he did get that participation ribbon that is the Driver of the Day award, which at this point is about the best anybody who isn't Max can hope for. Aston Martin fans may be getting exactly what they're hoping for next year, as it's rumored that Lance Stroll may quit F1 to pursue a career in tennis. And if that is true, I'd like to make one suggestion. Aston Albon? Ferrari fumbled Charles' first pit stop, but Leclerc wanted to show them that he's Ferrari to the core and went into the gravel while on inters. Albon, on the other hand, managed to keep his Williams on the track, on softs, the whole time. Alex Albon flexed all weekend, taking 4th place in qualifying, then in the race making soft tires last over 40 laps through multiple periods of rain, and then finishing in the points. As a result, I feel justified jerking him off throughout this video. I'm not the only one stroking Albon's ego. Pierre Gasly had some kind words for Williams, saying they're not a slow car anymore, and they're a pain to race against. But he forgot to add, when driven by Alex Albon. If Logan Sargeant is driving, then it's no big deal. Logan Sargeant became the first American to reach Q3 in over 20 years, but it's still been 20 years since an American has completed a hot lap in Q3, since Logan crashed in turn 2 after his outlap. Logan Sargeant also, impressively, got lapped just 7 laps into the race. Luckily, his car had his back and lost hydraulic pressure and took him out of the race, so he didn't have to endure the torture of being lapped multiple times. And let's talk about McLaren. They now feel like Formula One's middle child. We spent the first half of the season fawning over Aston Martin, and then we briefly got excited about McLaren, but then, as soon as Albon started dragging his Williams into positions we never thought they'd be, we completely forgot about McLaren.
Out of the way, you.
George Russell got on the radio to say,
I was forecasting the podium. How do we mess this up?
well, between Hamilton being left out in the rain on mediums and George's squandered race, if I had to guess, Mercedes must have hired former Ferrari strategists. George Russell did have an amazing moment where he dipped a tire off track, briefly lost control of the car, but managed to save it before it went off the other side of the track. Recent reports indicate that George is still picking bits of his race suit out of his asshole after clenching so hard.
Almost a horrible afternoon from him after he tested the structural integrity of his underpants at one point.
And speaking of clenched buttholes, now over to the Canadian Positivity guy for the Canadian summary of the Grand Prix. Well, you've heard the British guys enough, so why don't you listen to somebody else for a change? Even though it was raining, it was a great day for Pierre Gasly, who was on the podium despite a 5-second penalty, and watching him sell gives me the warm and fuzzies. You just can't help but to share in his enthusiasm and happiness at getting the podium. Unless you're Nico Hülkenberg, but in all seriousness, it's nice to see some emotion after the checkered flag. Unlike previous dominant drivers such as Vettel and Schumi who would celebrate their wins, Max seems kind of bored. It feels like this season is being written by a lazy anime writer who's using the tired old trope of demonstrating a character's skill by showing how bored they are of winning, because it's so easy. It's like how bored I get when I do something easy, like your mom. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. And now for the poll of the week. I asked, if you were to gender swap Lightning McQueen, what would her name be? Oh wait, sorry, that was the poll of the summer break. For the actual poll of the week, I asked, will Renault sell Alpine by the end of 2024? The top response, with 47% of the total votes, was yes, and they should sell. And while I agree, they should sell, you underestimate Renault's ability to make bad decisions. And if I had to guess what will happen, they'll hold out for another season, at which point they will be so much worse due to having axed their leadership not just in the middle of a season, but in the middle of a race weekend. And rather than getting top dollar for an upper midfield team, they'll be begging somebody to buy their backmarker garbage team for whatever they can get. Before we get to the dirty little secret at the end of every race weekend update, the spicy joke of the week, consider supporting my channel by joining my Patreon, or at the very least, subscribing here on YouTube. Liam Lawson debuted into a chaotic mess of a race and managed to finish 3 positions ahead of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Between Lawson, Ricciardo, and the complete lack of manners in the British tabloid media, I wouldn't be surprised if, at the next press conference, Crofty asks Yuki if he's considered seppuku.